Hi there, traders. This is Brad Gilbert with the weekly kickoff. All right, now it's Tuesday, the 16th of January, Martin Luther King Day on Monday, hence why I'm doing the weekly kickoff today. Now, just having a look at the week ahead, right? This is a really solid week of top tier data, and I'll expand this in a minute to show you the sort of the second tier data as well. But the high impacting numbers, it's a standout. You should be able to see very clearly the sterling, right? Sterling and sterling crosses are definitely in the firing line. This would be an ideal scenario every week if we had one particular currency coming out with their unemployment rate, the inflation rate, and then say their retail sales, right? You get a very good picture of what's happening in that economy. So to me, you've got to be looking at sterling and the sterling crosses, right? Now, just at the moment, if I just come back to the main screener here, you're looking at a bit of a risk-off scenario. Okay, equity markets taking a little bit of a pummeling. Sterling, Aussie, Kiwi heading down. The dollar going up against just about everything, right? Euro being the odd one out, just sort of hanging in there. But that's sort of pretty clear cut. So you can see, okay, the dollar's having a pretty good run. This is where you need to factor in your technical analysis and just have a quick look around, see what's going on, because there's it's a little bit odd, right? Because the dollar, they're factoring in rate cuts. They're expecting the Fed to reassess market conditions by March, and they're expecting 5, 6, 7 rate cuts this year in the US. So what we're seeing is the dollar back towards its highs. And I've got to say, the Swiss, to me, seems to be the one currency pair that sort of gives us a very good idea of what's happening on the dollar. It has been the lead, probably going back as far as November last year, right? So dollar yen sort of pushing higher, dollar CAD also, and you've got, well, there's euro just sort of sitting tight, as is sort of sterling, Aussie and Kiwi just drifting lower, right? And we've got the Chinese data this week, which will be instrumental for the Aussie and Kiwi. Now, I'm talking about sterling, right? So if I just come over to my sterling template and just have a look at the what sterling's doing here on against the dollar, right? It has been going up, stalled, now trading sideways. On the daily charts, just sitting pretty quietly there around 127.30. And you think, well, there's not much to it. But if you have a look at sterling against the major crosses, it's had a really good holiday period, right? Where, sterling Aussie has rallied, 500 points straight up. And it's pretty common across the board here. Sterling Kiwi, sterling yen, euro sterling, sterling Swiss, and sterling CAD. Right. So to me, I think there's a lot of goodness has already been factored into sterling. I think we might see, if we get some weak numbers this week on sterling, well, we've got great opportunities here across the board on the sterling crosses. That's really where you need to be looking. Like quite often, and maybe I'm leading you down the wrong path here sometimes, because I'm always talking about the dollar, right? And that's where everything's been emanating from, all direction. But right now, when you look at sterling, and you're looking at these data releases, you know what? Maybe sterling against the dollar isn't the pair to be hitting. Let's have a look at those other pairs this week, right? And that's really where your focus should come into play. Now, just coming back to that calendar, right? Don't just focus on the big numbers, right? So this is where I would include the second tier numbers as well. And you'll start to see how busy the week is coming into trading, right? So we've got a whole range of good numbers here. German inflation numbers, obviously the employment numbers out of the UK, the zoo numbers out of Europe, inflation numbers there out of Canada, very important, obviously. Bank of England Governor Bailey speaking. And if I scroll down here, there's like lots to be looking at. And what that does for us is it doesn't really matter where you are, whether you're in the Asian session, European or North American, you're going to have opportunities to see not necessarily great trading opportunities around the event. That may happen, but this is where the direction will come from. So if we see a shift in the Chinese data on Wednesday, right, well, that's going to impact the Aussie and Kiwi. And you're factoring that impact into the technical framework. UK inflation is probably going to be the pick of the bunch as far as the UK numbers. Give us a really good insight into what's going on. And don't forget, that's followed up with the US retail sales. So in that situation, if we got, say, weaker UK inflation, high US retail sales, well, sterling is going to move pretty aggressively. right? And as you filter down through the week, we do have a lot of these big second tier numbers, Aussie employment numbers, obviously very important. Building permits in the US, it's worth having a look at. Philly Fed manufacturing, I'd be sort of more inclined to look at that. But as I was saying, like sterling has got to be front and center because we do have the big treble, right? Unemployment, inflation, UK retail sales. We should have a very good idea of what sterling is doing by the end of this week. All right. Now, outside of that, what can you do? Well, just follow the market, right? We may see a risk on or risk off profile in the market. Just check that against your major currencies, see if it is prevalent. If it is, well, you've got the edge over the market, right? We're looking for opportunities where we have things in our favor. And if we see a clear risk on or risk off profile, you know which side of the market to be looking at. All right. All right, guys, have a good week. I said it's going to be pretty exciting. And this is, to me, I mean, last week was so dull. Like a lot of these instruments haven't really moved much at all, but they will shortly because we are starting to reach in to the economic bag of tricks and we're pulling out inflation numbers across the board. I would expect most of these currency pairs to be really kicking into gear by the end of this week, if not next. All right, guys, have a good one. All the best. Cheerio.